In real life, what happens when a father and son from television become rivals? There was astonishment among viewers when Jonathan Taylor Thomas and Tim Allen got into an argument. They got along famously on Home Improvement, but behind the scenes, tensions rose rapidly. Their friendship ended, but why? Why did a seemingly insignificant decision spark a conflict that has not yet ended? Join us as we dissect the drama, beginning with the stardom and ending with the pivotal altercation. The twists and turns of this story will shock you. Sure, let's dive in. Home Improvement went from a low-budget amateur show to a smashing success around the world. The biggest stars in Hollywood were envious of its success. Tim Allen had been a stand-up comic for a while, and Jonathan Taylor Thomas had been an aspiring child actor for even longer. Home Improvement transformed their lives by proving that their on-screen chemistry was genuine and popular. There had never been a more popular father-son TV relationship than this one. It proved that family comedies were the greatest. Jonathan became a teen idol, and Tim Allen became one of the highest-paid TV stars in no time. Tim Allen plays Tim, the Toolman Taylor, a home repair show host who is affectionate but clumsy. The show's smartest and most sardonic son, Randy, played by Jonathan Taylor Thomas, was cast as Tim's middle son. We need to examine how Home Improvement became a global phenomenon, renowned for its quality, humor, and compassion, before we can comprehend the magnitude of their dispute. Home Improvement wasn't content to merely conform, it actively shaped the zeitgeist. What started it all, Home Improvement was an instant hit when it premiered on ABC in 1991. Learn about Tim Taylor's Tool Time's family life and career as a Home Improvement show host. The show's simple premise resonated with audiences across the United States. The Cosby Show and Family Ties were huge hits in the 1980s, but family sitcoms were still adjusting to life after that. While most of its contemporaries relied on either silly humor or news stories, Home Improvement took a fresh approach. Real family moments and unexpectedly deep plots matched Allen's physical comedy and grunting catchphrases. This combination of humor and heart became the show's trademark. To reach their destination, though, was no picnic. Despite competing with established hit shows, Home Improvement had to establish itself as more than just another generic family drama in its early seasons. The show's breakout came when it established its own identity, which it did through fusing conventional family values with contemporary concepts and Allen's distinctive brand of male-centric humor. Tim Allen's background as a stand-up comic provided the comedic inspiration for the show. He had great TV success with a famous number about men and tools, imbuing the character with believable silliness. However, Jonathan Taylor Thomas appeared older than his years due to his innate charisma and impeccable timing. He stole scenes from his more seasoned co-stars and excelled at delivering sarcastic one-liners as Randy Taylor. Thanks to their natural chemistry, the actors in Home Improvement brought the show to life. In contrast to Allen's ostentatious masculinity, Patricia Richardson's portrayal of Tim's wife Jill was spot on. It was clear that the two older Taylor brothers, Zachary Ty Bryan and Jonathan Taylor Thomas, were very close. Taron Noah Smith, the youngest son, completed the family. Home Improvement was remarkably consistent, unlike many other shows that struggled with network schedule changes. Despite the ebb and flow of the comedy genre in the 90s, this show managed to hold on to its audience and quality for the most part. Home Improvement struck a chord with average Americans unlike any other program, even though Friends and Seinfeld received higher marks. There was no denying Home Improvement's ratings dominance by the mid-1990s. More than 60 nations, not only the US, aired it, and it became an international phenomenon. That it could adapt to the tastes of its audience without compromising its core values ensured its continued success. Home Improvement's Jonathan Taylor Thomas rose to fame at a rate no one had predicted, becoming a teen idol in the process. People were drawn in by Tim Allen's famous comedic style, but it was JTT who kept the younger generation tuning in week after week. He portrayed the charming, snarky, and intelligent Randy as the ideal middle child. He frequently served as the show's emotional focal point. When it came to advertising, Jonathan Taylor Thomas was more than just another child star. Teen Beat, Tiger Beat, 16 Magazine, BOP, and countless more featured his likeness on their covers. People of all ages were enamored with the actor. He stood out from the other teen idols of the 90s thanks to his boyish good looks and genuine talent. "I never really requested any of this," Jonathan eventually told Entertainment Weekly, "so I figured I should do something." His given name is Jonathan Taylor Thomas, but he changed it early in his career to his stage name. He was already famous for playing young Simba in Disney's The Lion King before he joined Home Improvement, but it was his role as Randy Taylor that really made him famous. By 1994, he was receiving more than 5,000 letters from fans every week. At first, it seemed like Tim Allen and Jonathan Taylor Thomas were the perfect master and mentee pair. Allen taught the young actor a lot. Behind the scenes, Tim would frequently lend a hand to Jonathan with the timing and delivery of his jokes. Supposedly, Tim had told the group he was a natural talent. Impressed by how fast Jonathan could grasp the subtleties of comedy, Jonathan became even more famous as Home Improvement continued to do well. During his time away from the show, he landed parts in films like Tom and Huck, Wild America, and I'll Be Home for Christmas. His schedule became increasingly hectic as he attempted to. The fact that their paychecks were different didn't seem to faze them. Those who worked on Home Improvement described the set as peaceful and the actors as getting along well. The cast would often gather for holidays and birthdays, making the shows feel like family affairs that went beyond the cameras. Patricia Richardson, who played Tim's wife Jill, often remarked that the set was like a second home for the younger actors. However, as Jonathan's fame grew, subtle changes began to manifest in the show's structure. Initially, Tim Allen was undeniably the star of Home Improvement. However, by the mid-1990s, Jonathan was receiving equal or even more media attention. He was receiving offers for movie roles, magazine covers, and teen awards at a dizzying rate. The plan appeared to be working for everyone involved. For a while, with two major stars on board, the show benefited from Tim's comedic talents and occasional directing duties, and Jonathan's success in the film industry coincided with his success on Home Improvement. However, tensions began to rise behind the scenes as the show's later seasons progressed. Jonathan Taylor Thomas, who had joined the cast as a child actor when he was 10, was now a teenager with ambitions beyond weekly television. Jonathan had always placed a high value on his education. In an interview with Premiere Magazine, Jonathan revealed, "I've been working non-stop since I was 8 years old. Someone once said, 'Education is something that no one can take away from you.'" Simultaneously, Tim Allen was riding high on the success of Home Improvement and building his fame with films like The Santa Claus and Toy Story. His approach to business was distinct from Jonathan's, but he was resolute in his desire to make the most of his time in the bright lights. The divergent ideas didn't immediately lead to problems, but they did set the stage for future misunderstandings. Tim had worked tirelessly for years to achieve his success, so he likely found it strange that Jonathan seemed prepared to step down from the limelight. Jonathan, however, had other ambitions. By the 7th season of Home Improvement, rumors were circulating that Jonathan was considering quitting the show. The production team was concerned that Randy Taylor's departure could hurt the ratings because he had become a fan favorite. Behind closed doors, debates about Jonathan's future on the show had grown increasingly heated. According to sources on set, Tim Allen reportedly conveyed the show's stability and fame to Jonathan in an attempt to keep him on. "Most actors would kill for this kind of chance," Tim allegedly told Jonathan during a conversation between sets. However, Jonathan had different plans. He was determined to graduate from high school properly and was considering college applications. Things reached a peak in 1998 when Jonathan announced publicly that he was leaving Home Improvement before its 8th and final season, citing his acceptance to Harvard and his anticipation of being a regular student there, an action that received Tim's official support. During the talks, he expressed his admiration for the young actor's commitment to school and offered his best wishes. However, behind closed doors, tensions were building. Since Jonathan's departure occurred at the wrong time, the show's final season would continue without a beloved character, potentially altering the show's ending. The producers labored to devise an explanation for Randy's absence, ultimately settling on a storyline in which he traveled to Costa Rica to study the environment. But, as Eddie Tanzi writes, by June, Courtney could study no more. He said it was about going to school, but then he made some movies. He wanted to make movies, right? He said he did not want to go to school. It seems like he didn't like it when I told him I was confused. Jonathan wasn't just focused on school like he said he would. He was in a lot of movies like I'll Be Home for Christmas and Speedway Junkie. Tim Allen didn't like how this seemed to be a conflict. In a 1999 interview with TV Guide, Allen openly slammed his former on-screen son, sending shock. The words that came out of Allen's mouth revealed the depth of his disappointment and hurt. He believed that Jonathan hadn't been entirely forthright about his reasons for leaving the show. If he had the time to make films, then why couldn't he have returned to Home Improvement every so often, especially for the last season? Jonathan, on the other hand, saw things from a more complicated angle. He had in fact made a few films, but they were projects he had promised to do before he focused on the shocking "F you" uttered by Jonathan at the end of the conversation was witnessed by an assistant producer, with increasing wrath following Tim's announcement that he was quitting the show that made him famous. The reaction was shocking because it was so out of character for the young star. The relationship began to crumble, and they had a heated argument that would linger for years. The public took a major hit when Jonathan announced that he wouldn't be in the final episode of Home Improvement. This decision seemed to back Tim's belief that Jonathan's decision to leave wasn't solely driven by school, but also by a desire to escape the show that made him famous. In May 1999, the series finale aired without Jonathan's character Randy, leaving what many fans perceived as an obvious gap in the Taylor family's farewell. Despite the episode's box office success, one of the show's most beloved characters was noticeably absent. Behind the scenes, tensions had escalated between Tim and Jonathan, who had been acting as a mentor to Tim. The once harmonious relationship had now become a source of animosity and sadness for both sides. The cast members were divided. Some supported Tim's perspective, while others could see Jonathan's desire for independence and education. Patricia Richardson, who played Jill Taylor, later said, "It's always hard when family dynamics change, whether it's a real family or a TV family. Needs and goals differ from person to person and don't necessarily align flawlessly." The public feud was covered in tabloids with titles like TV Dad and Son at War and Tim Alligator. The entertainment news shows speculated about what was happening behind the scenes and frequently ratcheted up the tension to attract more viewers. Jonathan, who had never been publicly forthcoming about his personal life, chose not to publicly respond to Tim's criticism. Some interpreted this silence as evidence of a rift, while others saw it as an adult effort to prevent things from getting worse. Whatever the case may be, the fact that he was absent from Hollywood for a long time afterwards said a lot. Tim Allen and Jonathan Taylor Thomas went in opposite directions after Home Improvement. Tim utilized the success of his sitcom to land lead roles in films like Galaxy Quest and the sequels to the Santa Claus films. He returned to television in 2011 with another smash comedy, Last Man Standing. Jonathan, as promised, devoted himself to his studies. He attended Harvard University for philosophy and history before transferring to Columbia University. Unlike many of his contemporaries who attempted to transition from child stardom to adulthood, Jonathan kept a low profile and avoided public meltdowns. The stark contrast between their respective career paths highlighted the mental divide between mentor and mentee. While Tim Allen continued to build his reputation as an artist and remained in the public eye, Jonathan Taylor Thomas faded from Hollywood, appearing in occasional small parts or voice roles. Those who worked in the entertainment industry speculated that Jonathan's split from Tim Allen may have influenced his decision to stop playing. Jonathan avoided discussing Tim Allen or home improvement in his few public appearances, instead focusing on his current studies and hobbies. Tim, on the other hand, occasionally made remarks that were misunderstood as a jab at his former co-star, which many interpreted as a criticism of artists who fail to appreciate the opportunities presented to them. Did his ex-TV father's public criticism turn him off to the entertainment industry, or did it simply make him desire a normal life away from fame even more? They didn't speak to each other in public for nearly a decade. Where Are They Now was carried by the entertainment press from time to time. Story about the home improvement cast, which always highlights how different Jonathan's decision to stay out of sight is from Tim's continued success. Many of these pieces used their story as a cautionary tale about the transient nature of celebrity and the precarious nature of relationships in the entertainment industry.